Hello, brothers and sisters. One of Mark Twain's memorable quotes was familiarity breeds contempt in children. While we know a lot about the process by which familiarity breeds children, we're a lot less informed how it produces contempt. All of this is on full display in today's Gospel from Mark. Jesus had returned home to Nazareth, where he had grown up with Mary and Joseph, and one Sabbath he is teaching in the synagogue. It didn't go well. Those who were so familiar with Jesus wondered, where does he get all this wisdom? But isn't he the son of the carpenter and Mary? And his relatives, we know them so well. Confronted with this reaction, Jesus comes back with a rejoinder that has become part of our popular wisdom. A prophet is not without honor except in his native place and among his own kin and in his own house. Ouch. Regarding the attitude of Jesus's fellow villagers, what we have is they knew about Jesus, but they did not recognize him for who he is. They had a lot of information about Jesus, his family, his work, his origin. He was a local guy. So they put Jesus into his place because they had convinced themselves that they knew him very well. He was one of them, an ordinary human being who should be going about doing ordinary things, like being a carpenter. He should be making tables, not speaking wisdom or curing the sick or casting out demons. In their mind, being acquainted with the ordinariness of Jesus prevented them from recognizing who he truly is. Therefore, they couldn't explain nor stomach his wisdom and power. They remained at the exterior level and rejected what was radically new about Jesus. And this is where we enter into the crux of the problem. When we allow the convenience of habit within our cultural mindset and the dictatorship of prejudice to have the upper hand, that not only distorts our relationship with our neighbor, but with God himself. It's just not possible to relate to people prejudiciously and at the same time be in an authentic relationship with God. Today, our country is as polarized as it's been since the Civil War. We gravitate towards our cultural, political, economic tribes in which we are fed data that confirms our attitudes and prejudices. What often happens is that we seek from our own experience and even how we relate to others only what conforms to our ideas and ways of thinking, so we never have to make the effort to change. Our consciousness becomes hardened. Consequently, how we relate to each other inevitably determines how we relate to God. Just like the villagers, we think we know Jesus, that we know a lot about him through religious instruction, that we know so much about the gospel stories, and that's enough that we repeat the same stories, the same doctrines, and we think that we are in right relationship with God. Well, that's not enough. Without an openness to the risen Christ, without an openness to what is truly new in the gospel, without really listening to his word, without being open to God's surprises, our faith will become tired, predictable, and slowly die as our faith becomes a social habit. What the villagers lacked was amazement, which is exactly what happens when we encounter Jesus. If you can say, I have encountered the Lord, then you are being gradually transformed from within, which will liberate you from your comfortable silo and distorted view of reality with its implied bias. Instead, like the beloved disciple, you'll begin to see reality through the eye and sacred heart of Jesus. In the gospel, we read many times that people who encountered Jesus and recognized him They felt amazement. And we, by encountering Jesus in our ordinary experience, we should also feel amazement. That's like a certificate that our encounter with Jesus is true and it's not habitual. And the final analysis, why did the villagers not recognize Jesus and believe in him? Simply put, they do not accept the incarnation. They couldn't accept this mystery that the immensity of God, who intentionally holds the whole universe in his hands, should be revealed in the smallness of our flesh. That the Son of God should become a son of a carpenter. That the divine should be hidden in the human. That God would assume a human face and embrace the words, the lifestyle of a very simple man. That is the scandal. The incarnation of God, his concreteness, his everyday life right here, right now. Jesus is Emmanuel. He is God among us. And the villagers, when he passed by, they did not recognize Jesus. This was St. Augustine's concern, who said, I am afraid of God, of the Lord, when he passes by. But when asked why he would be afraid, he said, I am afraid I will not recognize him. I am afraid the Lord, when he passes by, I will not recognize him. People of God, let this not happen to us. Let us recognize Jesus for who he is, which will impact how we relate to our brothers and sisters. Let us not be scandalized by Jesus. Let us ask our Blessed Lady, who welcomed the mystery of God into her daily life in Nazareth, that we may have the eyes and hearts free of prejudice and have eyes open to amazement. Amen.